Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Marty Reed with Positive Coaching Alliance, and we are joined here with Little League International. Please join us on Facebook Live right now. Send the link out. We'll get started in probably around 30 seconds here. I'm going to give you some time to join in, but send out the link. If you know any coaches, athletes, parents in youth sports, you don't want to miss this conversation. Again, I'm Marty Reed with Positive Coaching Alliance, and we will get started in just about 30 seconds here. We're joined with Liz DiLullo Brown, Senior Vice President of Little League International. So please join us. I'm following along on my phone as I'm watching you join in on the session right now as we are live. Thank you so much for joining in. Give us a wave and let us know where you're tuning in from. And thanks for joining us. Let me make sure that we are good to go here and that we are live, and I will introduce our special guests in just about 30 more seconds here. Okay. Perfect. Now, if you have any questions throughout the session, feel free to comment in the comment space with your questions, and I'll get to them throughout this interview. But let me introduce our special guest today. As you know, PCA has been partnered with Little League since 2006, and that includes, collaboration and content shares with tons of resources in their Little League University online library, our PCA Double Coach online courses and parent courses and activations at live events. But our guest today is Liz DiLullo Brown. She's the Senior VP and CMO of Little League International. And Liz has been with Little League for 10 years, and she's also a sports parent. She also serves on her local Little League board, handling player and volunteer registration, as well as technology. So she's got a lot of information to share with us today. Hi, Liz. How are you?
I'm good, Marty. How are you? Good to see you.
Good. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being a part of this. We're so happy to have you, and we're so, very appreciative of our partnership with Little League International.
Us too, and it's been a great partnership, and obviously we'll talk a little bit about that at some point of all the resources that we have together. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes, and there's, so much going on. As you know, right now is a very, very difficult time for youth sports. How has Little League been responding and adjusting to the current state of youth sports during the pandemic?
Yeah, so absolutely. First off, I think Little League International and all of our dedicated volunteers have been very focused on the health and safety of our families and volunteers first and foremost. So, mid-March, we recommended a sort of delay in the season, and from there really just set out to support our local leagues and our district administrators with information and advice and guidance. And so we really focused on developing materials that we could be sharing as real time as possible. So if you have seen it, one of the things that we spent a lot of time on and continue to develop is our sort of resource guide online. So at littleleague.org/coronavirus, we have added and continue to add to frequently asked questions. We've provided sort of financial guidance on how to assess local situations, and really more than anything, just been in active communication with our volunteers to help them, on the league side of the business of what things they could be doing to really assess where things will be once their restrictions may lift. But, more than anything, that the health and safety of our families has been in our thoughts, and sort of provided that guidance to us all along.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. And we understand, the very difficult decision that you had to make in canceling, the 75th 2020 Little League World Series and regional tournaments. It's the first time since, the Little League World Series existence since 1947. And, based on the information and overseeing the impact of COVID-19, and we support this decision, and we look forward to getting back out there to Williamsport for Little League World Series 2021. And we will be linking the info that Liz has mentioned for those that are tuning in right now. We're with Little League International. We'll be linking, the resources that they have continued to share that you can find on the Little League website. You can find coronavirus updates, frequently asked questions. They even have, season resumption plan general information, league guidance, info and insurance coverages, and cancellation policies and all the above. So definitely, check that out on Little League's website to tap into those resources. I want to give a couple of shout outs to those that are joining us in the call right now. Teresa, I see you. Jenny Welburn from Stanford, California. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining us. Alan Cornspan from Ohio. Awesome. All those joining in right now. Again, this is Marty Reed with PCA, and we are here with Little League International. If you have any questions throughout this session, please ask them in the comment section. So, as you look across the youth sports landscape, do you see an opportunity for kind of a reset in youth sports, like an opportunity for parents and organizations to reassess why they, feel youth sports are so important? And if so, how do you think it's best for organizations like Little League to encourage and take advantage of this reset?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's probably a lot of us in the business of youth sports that are really starting to think about this and having dialogue about, how our family's going to reset and come back to sports. As a parent, I can tell you we are missing the socialization.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're getting our physical activity in every day, but we're missing the socialization. And that's a big piece of kind of the Little League experience and the camaraderie and friendships and all of that. I think at Little League, the one thing that we're really proud of is we've always been really mission driven and focused on community, and our programs are based in communities and give every child an opportunity to play in that community. And so we think that, our instincts are telling us that the reset or the lens that parents may look through is really focused on what is available to me in my community. And so we're hopeful, optimistic that our programs will come back stronger after this, that maybe there'll be even more renewed interest in the opportunities to participate and, frankly, get back to some of the things that make kids, that provide the interaction for kids and really allow them to play with their friends and have a great experience. So we are optimistic. I do think parents are, like myself, are thinking about what are we going to do after this and how will we look at things differently. And so it's a point of reflection as we're all going through this together. But Little League is very optimistic. Our mission is still relevant and very true to form, and we think we'll fare well coming out of this.
Absolutely. Yes, and we feel the same way. We're very optimistic. We know sports will return eventually. So what are some ways that leagues, or what are some things that leagues can do now to best prepare for an eventual return?
Yeah, so, as we've been sort of in the stay-at-home and work from home sort of scenarios, when we sort of put the dates out there for our leagues to follow, and we follow that up very quickly with, here are some things you can be doing in this sort of time of pause, right? And so that was everything from contacting and communicating with the families to find out, once it's safe to resume, are you thinking you may? And to the volunteers, are you still comfortable volunteering? And so that communication, we've been encouraging our leagues to do and giving them some tools and resources to be able to talk to families and get an idea of where they are and where they may be. We've also, very recently, last week, we put out what we're calling our season resumption guide. And the governing principle of all of it is, when it's safe to do so from your sort of state and municipal governance, here are some ways and some things to think about. And the one thing that we're really, sort of educating our volunteers on is flexibility. So the season doesn't have to look like it always has looked. It could run through the summer months, maybe into the fall. You could do tournaments in your league or with neighboring districts. So there are ways to flex what Little League is from the traditional sort of mindset and still provide that experience for as many kids as possible. One of the things too, Marty, and you're aware of this because we had launched our new strategic plan back in the fall of last year. One of the key pillars of the strategic plan was creating some kind of alternative programs and ways to experience the fun of the game. And so League Sandlot Fun Days was a program that we launched earlier this year. We were starting to educate our volunteers about it, and it's a much more flexible, relaxed way to experience the game. And we think it's really got opportunity when we do return to allow leagues to provide a playing experience without the sort of full structure. So that's one of the programs that we're going out and talking a little bit more about and giving some more guidance on. But again, I think leagues, we've tried to provide them with as much guidance of what to do right now in this pause time period, that they could be prepared to provide that season for their little leaguers if it's safe to do so in their communities.
I love it. So we're not only just preparing for that eventual return, you're also providing these resources that they can tap in during this time as we're all at home, working from home, staying at home. You know, our theme for this week is actually schedules and routines and goal setting. And I know you're at home with 2 kids. How's this time been for you at home with your family? And do you have any advice on, you know, how we can set up a routine and keep kids motivated at home?
Wow. So I would say in the beginning, it's been 7 weeks or so that I've been working from home. It was a little bit of chaos in the beginning, just sort of getting used to. Frankly, my husband works from home, so we all took over his office, which was a little overwhelming for him. But, you know, I think quickly, you know, the schools and the teachers have been amazing, and the schools have provided a lot of structure to the work that they, you know, are recommending. And then I think you just kind of figure it out, right? You fall into a routine. You know, my husband and I are both on the phone a lot, and our kids are great about sort of knowing, you know, kind of when and how to ask a question and so forth. But I would say probably one of the biggest pieces for me that's been really important is that end of the day, my kids kind of come knocking around 4:30. Hey, can we go on our bike ride? And, you know, I jog, they ride bikes. We talk about the day. We just have great like family time together, and we have exercise, which is really important. And again, I think you try to figure out what works for you. Advice, I would say, just do the best you can. I think everybody's trying to figure it out. There's hardships all around. So many families are really, you know, stressed right now. And I think just give people a break and just do the best you can with the situation at hand. I don't know what other advice would be sort of more important than that.
Yes, that's great advice. Doing the best we can. It's all we can do right now. Absolutely. I want to shout out some more people that joined the call. Thanks for joining us, Ferris Mondi. And thanks for joining us, Sherry Clouter, Mary Hansen, Susan Massengale. Thank you all for tuning in. Dan Pullman said, hello from the Yukon Territory. Thanks for the free PCAs honoring the game, the officials' role in creating a positive youth sports culture online. Learned a lot. Awesome. Yes, we do have our online courses available right now for those tuning in. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Liz, you are also a member of your local Little League board. So you've experienced the impact of this sports hiatus, not only from, you know, the macro level, but also from the grassroots level. What are the biggest focus points moving forward on both levels?
Well, I think first off, I've been volunteering since 2015 with my local league. And I would tell you this year, we have a great board. We were up about 35 players from a registration standpoint. We had just finished that. We were getting our fields ready. I mean, we were so close to starting the season. So there was a lot of excitement and really a great group of people really committed to trying to do something. So, you know, we reflected as a board. We did a survey to our parents, really to ask them, like, if we can create this experience for you at some point in the future, do you want to do it? Do you want to stick with us? And so that was a really important sort of gut check for us to be able to organize. And then I think we did quite a bit of review of our finances just to see how much money we had already spent. I mean, uniforms are sitting there waiting in our, you know, concession stand for us to hand out at some point. We were ready to go. And so, you know, in the event we have to refund if we can't pull a season together, you know, we're prepared to figure out some sort of policy around that. But the biggest thing I think is the board is committed to trying to figure out how we create an opportunity for our players. And so, you know, from the national level or the macro level down to the local, to hear that commitment, you know, that's the kind of feedback that helped Little League International shaped some of our guidance, and to experience it with a local board and kind of ask the questions and be able to look at our community and see the impact that Little League has on our community. It's going to be important for us to figure out how we can create that social togetherness again for our players. So for where I sit in the organization, it was really helpful to hear just what was happening locally and be able to be a part of those conversations. So we're optimistic.
Right. And I mean, as you know, PCA partners with tons of youth sports organizations, and I do believe that Little League is our largest partnership base across the nation. And we've been hearing from quite a few of our Little League partners, and they are in competition with area club programs for players, and parents might be steering away from club programs in the future, due to many reasons, maybe cost, not wanting to travel as much. And, has there been any new developments with Little League International to attract players who are looking for high levels of competition?
So I think I'd go back to the point I made earlier a little bit about our mission. So our mission is to be a program and an opportunity in communities, right? It is something that has opportunities for every child if they want to participate, baseball, softball, or challenger program. There are certain children that Little League is probably not suited for, that maybe are looking for something that is a travel-based program or whatnot. We do have a lot of kids that participate in both, but at the end of the day, we know our mission and we're sort of committed to it. And so, we think that, again, parents may be looking through the lens a little differently or be looking for opportunities, but for many parents, Little League does serve a need. And so we're optimistic, again, about the role we continue to play and our sort of place in the community. And I would also sort of note that, back to our strategic plan, which we haven't abandoned in any way, we've just been paused on a few things. We did have some ways to sort of join Little League differently. So Sandlot Fun Days was one of those programs where kids could just try it and really get a feel for it. And we're in the process of evaluating some other ways to get involved with the program as well. So I think in the future you're going to see us, really continue to be relevant and maybe be even more relevant to some parents who were looking for traveling every weekend, miles and miles and miles from home, versus really finding something that's close to home and to be able to enjoy the comforts of their home versus being on the road. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think Little League does do a great job with competition. I mean, if anyone has ever watched the Little League World Series and seen that level of competition and how many players, that reach another level, whether that's college or professional, who actually competed on the Little League or in the Little League World Series on that stage, it's really incredible. So I definitely see the work that you're doing and continuing to keep that competition level high as well. So I do want to touch on the financial impact that this crisis has caused families, particularly in lower income areas. What are some ways to assure access to youth baseball and softball remains equitable across the country?
Yeah, it's interesting. We had launched a program this year really specifically targeting supporting families in need. And we worked with, so our partners in T-Mobile had launched a sort of call-up grant program, and we had really great success with getting new players to register and helping them find their league, and really offset the cost of registration fees, which sometimes is a barrier to entry into any sport, but in particular Little League. So I think something like that program, we're working with T-Mobile to determine if it could be brought back in 2021 and for the new season. And we continue to work with partners on equipment grants and other donations. And I do think that will be an area of focus for us in the future, is just to make sure that we can continue to evaluate how we can get players involved. Probably the most important piece, though, and our leagues really uphold this tenet, is that Little League has always asked our leagues to never turn a child away for their inability to pay. So that will continue to be part of our our sort of tenants at the local level. And if we can find ways to offset those costs, like we did with the T-Mobile Little League Call-Up Grant Program, we'll continue to do that as well as we go forward.
Absolutely. And as you know, Positive Coaching Alliance, our campaign right now is life is a team sport. We're all on the same team. We have to work together to support each other. We are very supportive to the resources that you're sending out and how you have been supporting, the community during this time. What are some ways that coaches and players and teams can continue to connect and support each other? And how has Little League International stayed connected throughout this whole time?
Well, so I would start with the last question first, maybe. So we
Yeah.
really have focused on engagement, especially on social media, because again, we're putting out a lot of important information, but at the same time, we want people to remember the game and the spirit of the game and all the things they love about Little League. And so, we launched a couple of unique campaigns during this time. We launched Little League Pep Talks, which was really getting the pep talk from some of the notable names in the business, Todd Frazier, Carl Ravitch, Jenny Finch, and so forth, and really use that as a way to just energize families and so forth. And then, have launched and collected backyard tips on things you could do at home, which is a collection of videos. We leaned on some partnerships with Dick's Sporting Goods and with Easton to provide some other at-home kind of activities.
Yes.
And just continue to figure out the fun ways of engagement, showing live games and things like that from the past. So, connectedness. We also have some tips for those folks you mentioned, coaches and families and so forth. I mean, the social side of things is really important. So doing kind of virtual trainings or team meetings through the computer and so forth, or supporting and shouting out to local sponsors at the local level who are supporting those leagues and may need some business support. So again, I think we're always encouraging some of those now virtual ways to connect as really important for leagues, coaches and teams to be involved. One just note, we did, with our partnership with Adidas, we did a Zoom chat 2 weeks ago with Chris Bryant. We kind of surprised a group of Little Leaguers. He joined the Zoom call, and it was a lot of fun. The kids were really surprised. So again, those little things of just trying to connect and see your teammates and obviously get a surprise like that was pretty unbelievable.
That is so cool. Oh my goodness. I mean, as you know, my background's in softball and I'm a product of Little League. So
Yep.
I speak for PCA when I say we are so appreciative of, all the work that you're doing. We're excited about the future of our partnership and what's in store. We're going to wrap up here. Thank you all for tuning in and your engagement, listening throughout this process. And I want to thank you, Liz, for taking the time to chat with me today and offer your expertise during this difficult time. We really appreciate you. Everyone tuning in, please be sure to check out Little League's website. They have tons of resources on there. There's more frequently asked questions on there as well. You can find updates, how to their guidance on when we do return to sports. It's on there, so definitely tap into those resources. And again, I want to thank Liz for joining us. Stay tuned for our next live session coming up tomorrow. Please stay tuned for those that are following along. And thank you so much for being here. And thank you again, Liz. Have a great day.
Thanks, Marty. You too. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.